What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I appreciate you being here. If you're new, my name's Austin Silver. Do me a favor, make sure you're subscribed, join the family, join the trading team. That way you don't miss any of the content that I'm constantly putting out for you and the rest of the trading community. Today, we're going to talk about my losing trade. I finally took a loss, and I followed my process really well, so there's a lot of lessons that I'm hoping you can take from this trade. As you can see from the P&L next to me, the loss was very small, only 4 pips, because, again, I followed the process well. I could have been stopped at the full stop out for a 10 pip, 11 pip loss, but because I managed it well and followed my rules to a T, I was able to literally cut that loss in half. So sit tight. You're going to see clips throughout the morning of how I handled the trade, what I liked about the trade. I still think, looking at it now, it was a good breakout. So there's a lot to take from this because it was a good setup that still ended up being a loser. And there's a lot of value that you can learn, I think, in trades like this. So sit tight through the end. If you enjoy it, make sure you drop a comment. Let me know. Like I said, make sure you're subscribed as well so you don't miss any of the future trading recaps. And here is my CadChf trade today. Good morning, traders. Welcome back. Today it's Tuesday, October 1st. We're in our second trade of the week here. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning. I just took my position long CadChf, so I want to break down for you everything that I like about the setup, what I didn't like about the setup, and I also want to talk about the correlated moves across other currency pairs so you can see how I'm using other pairs on my list to try to help confirm or deny the ideas that I may be wanting to trade on. So as you can see right now, we're down about 1.5, almost 2 pips. No big deal. My stop right now is about, we'll round it up and just say 11 pips away. So I'm looking for about 20 out of this thing, which it looks like it could give me according to ADR. Now, first comes first when you look at the analysis. Some of the guys in our VIP chat are saying, Austin, don't you see divergence on top? Because the RSI from yesterday's high is falling, as you can see, but price action is rising. So that divergence could tell us that the RSI is going to pull this lower. But because the RSI bottomed out here at 245 and now is coming higher here at 515, and I can confirm that by taking it to the 5-minute and showing you the divergence here that's actually coming up for rise, this to me is more important than the divergence coming in from the previous day. So here you see the price action on the 5-minute coming lower, but the RSI coming up. That gives me confirmation that we might see this thing push higher. I liked the push off the 50 EMA here for my entry. I like the 15-minute bar. If we go back to that, pushing off the 50, again, all morning making higher lows. I like that bar coming through the 21, through the 8 as well. So I'd expect a little pullback here. We call this a shift candle. I expect a little pullback here before we continue higher. But because the TDIs in the buy zone, everything here tells me we should move up, I'm going to continue to keep the long bias. Even here on the 1 hour, after yesterday's ramp up, it still looks like it should, hold that long bias. Check the 4 hour, same thing, outside the 8 EMA. Daily bar, same thing, just pushed off the 8 yesterday, off the 200 yesterday. So you should see another bullish day, I think, today, maybe pushing up towards that 800 on the daily bar. Who knows? So again, we're going to watch, give it some time. The stop's in at about 11 pips. You can see it here at 32. And I'm looking to see if we can get this thing up to maybe 75.65, 75.60 and see what we can do from there. I'd like to get at least 1 R on this. I know it's a little divergent. I know it's also inside the Asian range, but you guys saw yesterday we traded Euro USD when it was inside the Asian range and it ended up busting out and it moved 47, 48 pips from my entry. So here, just because we're in the Asian range doesn't mean I'm not going to take the trade. I'm going to size down, grade it appropriately, work through my checklist, and then act on good risk reward. I like the risk reward here. I like the setup overall. I know this TDI tells me that we'll probably move higher here today, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to wait to see if we get that move. If not, just keep reading and reacting. I was also looking at CHF JPY this morning, right? We had a nice push here, 40 pips left on ADR when it pushed down. Again, this was actually a little bit better because it was outside the Asian range, but I didn't really love this rising TDI. As the TDI had been rising all night, as price action was, both of those things told me maybe we push higher. But this morning, I was just waking up again. It was 5:30 in the morning. It ended up kind of breaking out off the 50 and it pushed down almost 2R, probably got just about 2R, yeah, about 13 pips in profit there with only 6 or 7 at risk. So a nice little 2-to-1 trade, 1.5R trade here. I didn't love this one that much just because this is typically a very slow pair as far as how much it moves on an average day. I would much rather trade something like this, like CadChf, that could push me a little bit further. So that's why I'm in this trade. As you can see, we're back up in profit just a little bit here, and we're going to give it some more time to settle in and really start to move higher. Across the whole market today, GBP pairs made a pretty good push up, so we were watching some of that. I was watching GU to see if this was going to come lower. You can see it almost looks like it tried to last night, kind of just got choppy. I think that maybe as the session goes on, maybe we move into New York, you'll start to see the GBP pairs come down as well. NZD JPY was also on the list. This was maxed out ADR, so I wasn't trying to short this. So you can see I kind of backed my way through all my ideas. didn't like the CHF JPY, didn't get anything on CAD JPY, so I ended up taking the position here on CAD CHF. It's a good risk reward opportunity, so we're going to give it time and see how it plays out. I appreciate you guys being here, checking out the trades, checking out the recaps. Stay with me to the end, and let's see how this thing goes. All right, guys, it is 6:47 now. I'm just checking in here. As you can see, we're up about 2 pips in the trade, so it's looking good. If we flip over to TradingView, you can see we did exactly what I said it would do. The 2-pin retest here, halfway back the shift candle body, which is what we'd expect. Sometimes it's 1 pin, sometimes it's 2. It's more about that level, that price level, that it comes back halfway the body and retests it. We then moved off it higher, and now I've added the divergence lines in that I was talking about earlier on top. You see from the RSI high yesterday into the RSI high today so far, the RSI has been falling. Price action has been rising. So really, we want to see the RSI as it is getting above the divergence line, and we want to see price action getting above the divergence line fast. I don't want to see a pin here and see this come back down off of it. Now, if it does slow down here for 15 minutes or 30 minutes or even 45 minutes, I'm not going to necessarily yank the trade. I might take half of the size off just to make sure that if it does come down, because I'm seeing that it could show resistance to this price, that I don't lose any money. But I'm still going to give it time because it's holding outside the 8 EMAs. TDI says buy it, EMAs say buy it. Until it gives me a solid exit signal, I'm not going to give up on it. I think that it's a slower pair, but the trend is normally easy to identify. And here we can see that the long bias is still there. So I'm hoping we can break through the divergence here in the next 15 minutes going into 7 a.m. and just get me above it really quick. That would be great. And then maybe use it as a level to bounce off of and go higher towards my take profit. So I'm going to give it a little bit more time. I just wanted to come on and check in with you guys, show you that over the last 45 minutes or so, it's basically been moving somewhat sideways, but higher at the same time. If we look at the 5-minute again, you can see the TDI turning up, price action pushing off the EMAs and starting to extend a little bit. But again, we know the divergence line above us could be an issue, so we're going to see what happens here. I've seen many times where it hits this line and comes down off of it and moves down all day. But I've also seen times where it busts through this divergence line and continues higher. So I'm going to give it some more time here, 6:48, 6:49. Let's see what happens at 7 o'clock, 7:15, 7:30, and we'll check back in with you guys as the trade develops. All right, everybody, it's 7:11. I just want to update you on where I'm at, what my thoughts are right here. So as you can see on the 1 minute, RSI high set at 601, price action high set at, what is that? 642, 640. So you can see we have some divergence there. If we go to the 15-minute, you guys know that we're having issues clearly with the divergence here. I just told you in the last clip. So as we're starting to slow down, you have to ask yourself, is this trade telling me to get out? On the 1 minute, yes, it's divergent, and on the 15-minute, yes, it's divergent. But on the 1 minute, all morning since my entry, it's still making higher lows and higher highs. So still, in theory, it's moving higher overall, but slowly on the 1 minute chart. If we take a look at the 5-minute, you can see, again, that retest to the divergence. You can also see the divergence on the bottom here, and you can see that liquid 50 pulling up into the buy zone. So we might just be in a short-term pullback here before it ends up coming higher as the morning goes on. So in a situation like this, as it starts to get a little slow, starts to get a little choppy, it's most important to remember that you want to come back to the time frame that you entered on and decide if you're going to exit the trade only based on that time frame. Of course, take the 1 minute, the 5-minute, the hour, the 4 hour, take all those other time frames into consideration. But because I entered on the 15-minute here, I'm going to only exit if the 15-minute tells me to exit. Now, yes, it's coming off the divergence like I keep saying, but EMA to EMA, this has not broken back down yet. So if we exit this trade, right, looking in the future, if we exit this trade now and it ends up coming higher, I'm going to say there was no exit signal. It showed me a slowing signal with the divergence, but no exit. If it does come down and break the 8 or the 21 and I pull the trade there, and in hindsight it ends up coming lower, I'll then look back on it and say, yeah, that was a good exit, a good pull. So I'm going to keep judging this trade 15-minute candle by 15-minute candle. Even if we close here bearish as it's starting to push back down towards the entry, even if we close bearish here in 2 minutes at 7:15, it's not going to scare me yet. I still very, very much believe in the level that was tested here at 75.40, 75.41. So until that level's broken, until we start to break down these EMAs, I'm not going to give up on this thing. I'm going to keep giving it more time, and we'll see how it plays out. Like I said, at most here, my risk is about 11 pips. And if it does start to break down the EMAs, I'm going to close this trade most likely before it actually can stop me out for the full 11 pips. So I won't even take the full loss at that 11 pip stop. So we're going to give it more time. We've got a minute and a half left here on this 15-minute candle. I'll come back on maybe 7:30, 7:45 and update you with how I'm handling the trade, or if I decide to close it sooner for whatever reason, of course, I'll come back on and keep you guys posted. But I'm hoping that you can see, even in a trade here that's giving me some losing signals, I'm sticking to the system, sticking to the process, and reading it and reacting. Not trying to forecast, oh, this could break the 8. Let me get out now. No. Wait for it to close, act on the close. So let's give it some more time, and I'll pop back on in a little bit and check in with you guys. All right, guys, it is 7:32, so the 15-minute candle just closed, breaking down underneath the 21 EMA. However, I'm still holding the trade. I really like the pin here to the 50 EMA. I like the pullback. I know that sometimes after a shift like this, we might have to deal with a pullback to the 21 EMA. So I was kind of prepared for this, and I still think that we might be able to hold here and move higher as the morning goes on. It's only 7:30. There's plenty of time left for this to get some gas and kick higher. The thing is that it is a CAD pair, CAD CHF. We have high impact CAD GDP news coming in at 8:30 if you look here on Forex Factory. So I want to be done with this trade before that news comes in because it is forecast to change from previous, and that could shake this pair up a lot. I don't know which way it goes. It could shoot higher, could shoot lower. They use news sometimes to shoot in either direction. It doesn't really have to react as you would think, and there's no justification for it. So I just make sure that I'm not stuck in trades going into high impact news events like that. On top of that, as you can see, I've drawn two zones here. One from yesterday's first high set at 10:30, and then the last high of day set here at about like 3 o'clock, 3:15 in the afternoon. These two boxes have created two pretty concise zones for me to see this thing trading between over the last 24 hours or so, almost 24 hours or so. And you can see we've been making higher lows. The TDI is still in the buy zone, EMA is still holding, and overall, even though it is pulling back, if you zoom out and stay on the higher time frame here on the 15, you can see, like I said, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. Now, we did test that divergence, and in hindsight, if this ends up falling away from us today, I'm going to say, yeah, it did hit that divergence for the third time, and it fell away. But until it breaks the 50 EMA would be the signal to me that this divergence is going to take this lower. Till it breaks the 50, I'm not too sold that it's going to fall, especially because here you can see the TDI staying flat and actually still, like I said, with price action, making higher lows. So I still think we could, again, move back higher. As you see, we're pushing back pretty well here in this candle. So let's see if we can get back above this zone here at 75.43-ish and get back up into 45, 46, 47 and see what happens as we approach the divergence line again. So I'm going to update you guys in maybe 15 minutes at 7:45, maybe 8 o'clock. I'll let you know how it's playing out. Should hold the 21 here. We've got 10 minutes left on the candle, so it could do a lot, but I want to see this thing kick back up and get me into profit within the next hour or so I can at least pull some money in, out of this trade before that news event hits. So I will keep you guys updated. We'll manage this trade well and get out of it, like I said, within the next hour or so. All right, guys, it is 8:03. Just want to update you. I'm down, as you can see here, almost 4 pips, 3.7. It's really just not moving. Now, we're less than 30 minutes away from the major news event, so I'm getting ready to consider at least taking some of this trade, if not all of this trade, off. Just taking the small loss and moving on to the next one. It's a slow pair to begin with. ADR is only 51 pips, right? We have this high impact GDP news coming in 30 minutes that we know can shake this pair up. In fact, if you keep watching, you're going to see how it shakes it up. Even if I close the trade, I'm still going to show you how the news shakes it. So because of that, because of ADR, I know I'm not going to get a lot of money out of this trade, so I'm going to just try to minimize my loss as much as I can. I mean, at most, I lose 10 pips if it shoots down, but it hasn't even moved 10 pips in one candle at all today, so I don't expect it to do that right here. So I'm going to give it like 10, 15 more minutes, see if I can get back to break even, if not break even into profit, and maybe close a little blue here. Past that, I'll come on at 8:30 and show you how the news reacts, show you if spreads open up, see what the candles do, see what the news actually, comes in as, and we'll go forward from there, okay? If you have any questions about the trade, please make sure to drop a comment below, let me know. Just looking at TradingView really quick, you can see we only broke the 21 EMA once. Since then, it's been 2 candles with pins to the 50, but closing back above the 21, so showing me a lot of momentum that we still could come higher. And then on the 1 minute, on top of all that, I can see a little bit of divergence building here as that TDI starts to rise again, and price action starting to come lower, so you see that divergence, you trust the TDI, you trust the indicator telling me we could pop. So I'm hoping we get a little push here back into the green as we get closer to 8:30. So I got 25 minutes or so to get this thing into profit and close blue. Just a slow trade. So I'll keep you posted how I handle it. If we end bearish here at 8:15, I might just pull it there too. So I'll keep you posted. I'll let you know how I handle it. All right, guys, it is 8:17 now. 15-minute candle closed bearish, down towards the 50 EMA. As you can see, I'm down about 5 pips now. I did move my stop up a little bit to 75.34 just to make sure that if it does continue to shove down here before news kicks in, that I don't lose the full 10 pips. So now my stop is under 9 pips here. Very, very tight stop. And I'm hoping that in the next 10 minutes or so, we can get a bounce here before news comes in. Where does news take this pair? I have no idea. It could even help our trade in theory, but because spreads open up, because we don't know the direction that it's going to spike, I'm not going to hold followed into the news. I'm going to follow my plan as I should and not trade into high impact news, especially when it's CAD news and I'm trading a CAD base pair. So on the 1 minute, we've been watching this wedge formation. It kind of broke to the downside here to retest the 800, but really it's kind of confirming the divergence we see. You see how the RSI low was set here at 726 and price action low was also set there. You can see the RSI low now at 815 is not as low as it was here, but price action is dipped lower. So building more confirmation that there is bottom divergence here and this could shove higher. So I'm going to hold, like I said, until 825, 826, 827, like right into the news. If the spread starts to open up too much, I'm going to turn on the video camera, close the trade, and show you guys how news shakes out. So I'll come back on in a few minutes and I'll let you guys know how this thing ends up. All right, guys, it's 824. Trade's not moving. I don't think it's going to bounce. I have no idea what news is going to do to it. So right here, I'm going to close it, take the 4 pip loss right on the face, and move on to the next trade. So if we look back at the analysis here, I can see some divergence building on the 1 minute chart, which would tell me that this is going to come higher. I think news might even shoot this thing up, but I don't know. So to just see it turning down, it's shown me enough signs on the top that it's divergent, that it could come lower. It's showing me enough signs just in general that it's a slow pair, which I already, thought going into this trade. So I'm just going to take the small loss and move on. This is really key when you're looking to compound wins and keep losses small. You have to accept losses really well and then be willing to take re-entries. I have a saying that I'm trying to coin, and it's that if you're really good at accepting losses, you'll never miss re-entries. And I really believe that. So here, it's broken the EMAs. It's divergent on top on the 15 minute. You can see it on the TDI right here. Hold on. Let me stretch this out for you. You can see it on the TDI here, right? So you can see the divergence forming. We know that there's high impact news coming in 5 minutes. So again, here, taking the trade for the small loss, I think is the smart thing to do. So what I'm going to do is in 5 or 6 minutes, come back on, show you how news shakes this pair. We'll see how it plays out and see if we made a good decision. But I think regardless of the outcome, just like we talk about, regardless of the money, I'm following a good process here to close the trade before high impact news, and that's what I want you guys to take away from this. I'm not scared to take a quick little loss here of 4 pips. After we smacked EU yesterday for over 20, you can give back 4 here when it's showing you signs that it's not going to move. Even irregardless of the trade you did yesterday, if this trade today, what's happening right now, is showing you that it's not set up correctly, then you have to read that and react to it, which is to close the trade. So I'll come back on in a couple minutes. We'll wrap things up. We'll see how news plays out. And then we will scan over the other pairs that we were talking about this morning as well, just so I can round that out for you guys, and we will move on with our day. All right, guys, right there, it's 8:30. You can see the news is shoving this thing lower. So I did close the trade for a 4 pip loss, as you can see the P&L right here. Not a bad decision at all. I followed my rules. I gave this as much time as I could, really about until 5 minutes before news, to try to get me back up into profit. Couldn't do that for me today. So to take that small loss, following the process, avoiding getting spiked out in this big push down here was definitely the right decision. It just couldn't move for us yet. And it might still come higher later in the day. So I'm going to sit here and see the session out. And if I can find a re-entry for some reason, if it doesn't end up holding lower and dropping the rest of the day, then maybe I trade it higher. But we take it one trade at a time, right? One good trade as one good trade as one good trade. So to review this thing real quick, you can see the levels that we were holding all night, basically trading between the high set yesterday at 10:30 and then the high set yesterday at about 3:15. Both of those were our significant levels, trading between during the Asian and London sessions last night. We had our breakout candle here at 5:45 that I thought was going to send us higher. We retested the divergence line created by yesterday's high at 3 o'clock, and then the Asia session high today at about midnight, 12:30. That divergence line being tested was the first sign that this thing might come lower. We then found divergence on the 1 minute and the 5 minute on top in here. You can see RSI high was set at 6 o'clock, price action high set at 641. So again, price rising, RSI falling, giving us a signal that this might come lower. So another thing telling us that this might be dying. So a couple of signals saying, hey, this might be dead. Hey, this might be not, moving higher right now. It might be slowing down. And then on top of that, the TDI falling towards that stationary 50, towards that reset level, was the third technical thing that really signaled to me that the trade was done. We then broke down under the 21 EMA. That was another signal saying, hey, get out now. Take the loss before you, instead of taking the full 10, get stopped out at 3 like I did, or 4. Take the small stop, take the small loss. Don't wait to get hit at your stop. So all of that building, plus the plus the CAD news here at 8:30 coming in, all were enough for me to want to close the trade. So here, if we take a look at the news, we'll see how it came in, see if it came in as forecast. Actually, it came in lower than forecast. So the news was negative on CAD, which would pull CAD base pairs lower, right? And CAD quote pairs higher. So that's exactly what it did. It's here in this situation with news, it went as forecast in the sense that the news was negative, so CAD base pairs are falling. So this can continue to fall all day if that news holds and the market prices that in as something that's not great for the CAD base pairs. So whatever it decides to do doesn't really matter with my system. That's the beautiful thing with the way I trade. I don't really care about the news or how it's getting priced in. I was out of this trade before the spike out, and that's what's important. So I hope you can learn from me here, accept losses, come back, try to find re-entries. I'm still going to keep looking, and if I find a trade, I'm going to video it so you can see that. But here, treating it as one good trade is one good trade, right? One setup at a time. It broke down. It gave me multiple signals of why it was slowing, plus the news, more than enough to take the small loss and just come back. You can easily keep your account growing if you can keep your losses small. So I hope you learned something here. It's 8:30 in the morning. We'll keep looking. If I find anything, you'll see it in this video. If not, I appreciate you being here for the trade. I hope that you learned something. Make sure you're subscribed. Big red button below me. Join the family. And I will see you guys in the next trading recap.